we very much speak out against statism on this show very clearly, very plain spokenly. I do think, it's the only enterprise in the world that does not derive its revenues from mutual voluntary exchange. Now, I guess we could start to lump in these other industries that are becoming part of the state, right? Like healthcare and whatnot. So to ask again about the cash bonus hospital thing that's universal, right? That's every hospital in the country. It's federal. Yeah.
Yep. And behind it, so that's part of, excuse me. So, in general, by the Constitution, the right, sorry to sound like a constitutionalist. We're strange bedfellows. We got a Christmas card from Jenny Thomas. What can I say? Who's a lovely person and had a lovely Christmas card. Right, Clarence's wife. But the rules are that powers that aren't mentioned in the Constitution vest to the states, right? And healthcare regulation is one of those. So in general, the rights to regulate medical practice vests with the states. And the way that the FDA gets its mandate is through the authority to regulate interstate commerce. So a case can be made, and I talked about that, 8 years ago, but when Trump came in, but I guess it's 12 years ago now, or 10. A case can be made that these larger states with large economies can set up their own pharmaceutical industries and their own distribution, so long as they don't cross state lines. So the power of the federal government to regulate this whole industry flows from interstate commerce, because they don't have any statutory rights, any constitutional rights to regulate the practice of medicine. So the way they do it, like a lot of things, is they do it by leveraging their federal dollar investment in programs like Medicare, Medicaid, et cetera. And so what they have done is said to the hospitals and by extension to the physicians, if you don't play by our rules, then we'll pull your funds.
Yeah.
And you won't be able to get reimbursed for Medicare, Medicaid, and you will go out of business. So that's the fist in the glove there. And that has been leveraged you'll recall, there's all these clips of Nancy Pelosi and Jen Psaki and Joe Biden, and it goes on, and Tony Fauci saying, we will never impose mandates and they're not legal and they can't be done. And then they get in office and boom, there we have it. Mm-hmm. And they enforce it through these kind of financial coercion pathways. But technically they have no right to regulate the practice of medicine at the state level.
Right.
So that's what they've done. And then you also have the insurance companies. And the other thing so they enforce certain coercions and at the hospital level with the hospitalists, the federal government has basically said, you will only practice medicine the way that NIH tells you to practice medicine. NIH has no statutory right to govern the practice of medicine, and they never have in the past. They're set up to be an R&D agency. They are this whole idea of NIH establishing medical standards for treatment is part of a drive by the federal government to establish basically checklist-based medical practice. So, treatment norms, where it's really driven, at least this is the way my colleagues that are medical practitioners perceive it. It's driven by an interest in trying to move medicine towards a economic model that is more AI driven, so that you can offshore physicians, for example, So you can walk into Walgreens. Here's the vision. You walk into Walgreens and you either pre-keyed in or on site you key in what your symptoms are. And that goes through some sort of a, deep learning algorithm and pops up, here's your diagnosis, and this is the approved treatment. And then you have a offshored physician in an emerging economy where their trading has been subsidized by their own government. And he or she pops up on the screen and has a medical license to practice in the United States. And they say, okay, this is what you have, and this is going to be your treatment. And move over to the pharmacist who will check you out and administer the appropriate drugs. That's the vision we're moving towards, is this kind of checklist-based medicine that's kind of a one-size-fits-all, as opposed to the traditional practice of medicine, which is inefficient, absolutely, but has this human quality where a patient, because every patient's different, their psychology is different, their context is different, their social context is different, their physiology is different, and one size absolutely does not fit all. And so that's the art of medicine traditionally, right? And we're at this tension between the art of medicine is intolerably expensive, which is why the insurance companies want to drive this to the lowest common denominator. So primary care physicians, seeing patients should not see them for longer than 5 minutes. And they should only see them for one condition at a time, because every new condition visit can, of course, be billed to the government again, right? And so coming in to see a physician and having a holistic view of their treatment, diagnosis, therapy, et cetera, that's contraindicated with the business model. So this is about profit and the business model and business interests here. And that's what we're seeing is one of the early examples of implementation where the federal government through the NIH is asserting its authority to establish a standard treatment protocol for this disease, whatever its stage. And we're clearly seeing most people don't like the idea that the federal government has mandated that the treatment for COVID is go home and take some Tylenol and come back when your lips are blue. And then we'll put you in the hospital, in the ICU, in the COVID care unit, put you on a vent, pump you up with remdesivir and kill you. Because that's kind of what happens, right? And so most of the population now knows, stay the hell out of the hospital, or they're going to kill you. And that is not a paranoid statement. That is what happens, because the hospitalization rate, if you can get on top of COVID within the first 72 hours, is virtually zero. If you delay treatment, then it goes up exponentially. And if you delay treatment past 7 days and you start to really have the pulmonary compromise that puts you into the ICU, then you're in the kind of 15 to 25% mortality rate.